Welcome everyone, this is Sandy Andrew, your host of the Universal Learning Series radio show, where we discover the spiritual and scientific universe. Please visit our website at universallearningseries.com. We are broadcasting live on this day, Saturday, March the 6th, 2010, from the Kansas City metro area, the good old US of A. Our topic of discussion this week is My Big Toe, Theory of Everything with Tom Campbell. My Big Toe is about life, purpose, personal significance, physics, evolution, and the reason why. The acronym TOE is a standard term in the physics community that stands for Theory of Everything. Such a theory has been the holy grail of physicists for more than 50 years. My Big Toe aims to deliver the solution that scientific quest at the layman's level with precision and clarity. This book is an adventure into the overlapping worlds of science, philosophy, and metaphysics. It is tightly analytical and logical, as all good works of science and philosophy should be, while at the same time down to earth, easily understandable, and full of good humor. No leaps of faith or beliefs of any sort are required to get where these books will take you. My Big Toe by nuclear physicist Thomas Campbell is written in the language of contemporary Western culture, unifies science and philosophy, physics and metaphysics, mind and matter, purpose and meaning, the normal and the paranormal. The entirety of human experience, mind, body, and spirit, including both our objective and subjective worlds, are brought together under one seamless scientific understanding. Based upon careful research and logical deduction, this is a book for all who have an interest in the nature of the reality in which they exist. My Big Toe is not only about scientific theory, function, process, and discovery, but also speaks to each individual reader about their innate capabilities. Readers will learn to appreciate that their human potential stretches far beyond the limitations of the physical universe. Please visit Tom Campbell's website at mybigtoe.com. That's my-big-toe.com. Link is on the main page of the Universal Learning Series website. And we would like to welcome Tom Campbell to the Universal Learning Series radio show.
Well, thank you, Sandy. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, well, that was quite an extraordinary introduction into your book, Tom, which I am referring to a book, but I believe My Big Toe was originally 3 books. Am I correct in that?
Yes, it is a trilogy of 3 books, and I also then have all 3 of those books bound into one cover, both hardback and softback. So, yes, it is 3 books.
Okay. Well, some of the listeners may have picked up that we refer to books and then book during the introduction and must have wondered what we were talking about there. Okay, we'll talk in detail about this extraordinary work you've done, but Tom, describe your life before you got into your writing. You're a nuclear physicist, correct?
Yes, I am. That's by education. That's what I did my graduate work and my thesis in experimental nuclear physics. But I didn't really ever work in nuclear physics. I went from graduate school into a job where mainly my skills were just doing physics in a kind of applied physics, I guess is the best way to say that. That is, I was doing models, simulations, using physics to describe the real world, what happens, what are the risks. Right now I'm working for NASA, and at NASA I do risk assessment for the Ares 1 program, which, by the way, was just canceled, so I'm about to have a job change, I suspect. But in any case, what I do there is work within groups that try to determine what could possibly go wrong. Now this is as far as protecting the lives of the astronauts and of the NASA mission itself. What could go wrong? What's the probability of it going wrong? How can we fix it and deal with it if it does go wrong, or, redesign, redo the engineering to prevent it from going wrong? So it's a risk assessment, vulnerability analysis, that sort of thing. And NASA takes that very seriously. They've had some accidents and some issues that they've learned that trying to find these risks ahead of time is a much better idea than finding out about them when they happen to you. So that's what I do now. Before writing the books, I came out of graduate school and took a first job. At that time, it was in technical intelligence, trying to look at risks there too, I guess. How foreign equipment and how does it work, and how can we learn from it, and that sort of thing. So I got introduced to Bob Monroe. It just so happened that he lived no more than about 45 minutes away from where I was, in Charlottesville, Virginia at the time. And when introduced to Bob, he was just in the process of building his laboratory for studying consciousness. And he had a shell of a building, and that's all. It was sort of like, build it and they will come. He didn't really know what he was going to do there or how he would do it. He just knew he had to start. So he built the structure, and myself and Dennis Menerick, he was a double E, and I'm a physicist, and we were talking with Bob, and he said, well, I need some people to man my lab to help, instrument it, build equipment, and then, do the experimental protocols. And I looked at Bob and said, well, we'll trade. I'll be your scientist in residence, and Dennis agreed with that as well. Said, but you need to teach us what you do, because if we don't experience it directly, it'll never be real to us. He agreed, and we then spent the next decade or so with Bob Monroe, and for the first 5 years or so of that, we spent probably 30 hours a week with Bob, him teaching us to do what he did, and eventually it was very successful. He was a good teacher. Within a few years, we were having out-of-body experiences at will and doing what we wanted to do with it when we wanted to do it, just as he did. And that kind of started a lifelong interest and passion in me for finding out just what is the larger reality, how does it work, what are its rules, what are its limitations and its boundaries, what can you do there and what can't you do there, and why? I'm a physicist, and what physicists do is we model reality. And here was another whole part of reality that needed modeling, needed some understanding of exactly how did it work, and doing that in scientific terms. So we always did experiments. You have to always experiment on this path. You cannot make assumptions and say, well, this must be how it works, unless you can experimentally verify that that's the way it works. So I spent maybe 35 years, by now it's almost 40 years, studying the nature of reality from the larger reality itself, and from an out-of-body state, and exploring to, of course, my physics and trying to understand and get a good grip on how it all works. And then there's lots of data out there in the world, and I needed a theory that would basically solve all the outstanding mysteries that abound in both physics and metaphysics, because if you have a theory, a TOE is a theory of everything. That's what the TOE is an acronym, stands for that. If you have that, then you need to be able to explain physics, things like, why are particles probability, and things like why is the speed of light restricted to the value of c. These are basic fundamental problems in physics that have no solution today. But if you really understand reality, you need to be able to solve those physics problems as well as solve problems like what's the purpose of life? What are we doing here? How does it work? How does, where do precognitive dreams come from? Communications by telepathy. How about mental healing? The placebo effect. It goes on and on. There's all these kinds of things. Experiments in what's called reverse causality, where people use their minds to affect random number distributions. How does all that work? So I finally did come to a model, if you will, that explains all those things.